Here's a video about a mystery I've been hoping to solve for a long time, about some really cool temporal trickery in Abyssal's Veil of Transcendence. I'll get straight to the point. In the middle of this very dark track, there's a break where we get this haunting, delicate, repetitive, tonal, music box sounding riff for a little bit. Then the guitars and drums burst back in with a long string of really murky, jagged death metal riffs. Eventually, by the end of the song, the guitar riff lines up with this music box thing, and they fade out together through the end of the song. But here's the thing, the music box riff keeps going uninterrupted through the string of apparently completely unrelated death metal riffs, quieter and in the background. The first time I heard this, and still whenever I listen to this, I'm blown away by what this feels like. The music box thing is just loud enough that you can hear it, but not so loud that you don't question your sanity a little bit. It's like this plaintive voice buried but persisting beneath the crushing weight of the riffs, which is a really cool aesthetic effect, I think. The two layers are so different as to feel completely unrelated. The music box thing is repetitive, clearly tonal in D-flat major, clearly in 3/4, and higher up in pitch space. The death metal riffs, when they start, are almost completely linear, that is non-repeating, very chromatic, but loosely centered around B and C, mostly in a slightly ambiguous 4/4, and mostly super low in pitch space. This is already a pretty huge difference between the two. But it's actually even wilder than this because the two layers are also at completely unrelated tempos. The music box thing keeps going at around 100 BPM, while the death metal riffs start at 105 BPM. You'd probably barely notice this difference if you were to hear the two tempos one after the other, but when they're played at the same time, they go out of sync with each other very quickly. Here's that with the music box thing louder than it is in the recording, so you can hear this extreme tempo dissonance more clearly. I said at the start that there was a mystery here. I didn't have a clue, just from listening, how the death metal riffs and the music box thing got back in sync at the end of the song. Remember, they eventually get to this. So how does this happen? The answer, after looking at this track and transcribing it and spending a lot of time with it, is that it's complicated. It's not as if there's just some one single trick. Let's follow the death metal riffs. First, we get a long stretch at around 105 BPM. then there's a sudden direct tempo change to like 80 BPM and some more riffs. Then there's another sudden direct tempo change to like 103 BPM, which then gets gradually slowed down slightly from 103 to 100-ish and latches onto the tempo of the music box thing again. This section gets back to the same tempo as the music box thing, but even when we get back to the same tempo, the guitar riffs are still in 4/4 as opposed to 3/4, and they still seem to focus on the low open B string harmonically, as opposed to the D flat major of the music box thing. The two layers have gotten back into the same universe as each other, but they're still out of phase with each other, in different meters, and in pretty distant harmonic worlds. This all gets untied a little later, and everything lines up again nicely. So that kind of answers the question. The two layers start completely separate from each other, and the music box thing keeps going uninterrupted, while the guitar riffs start at a different tempo and jump around in tempo a little bit before eventually fitting into the music box tempo, but staying in a different metric and harmonic worlds, and then they jump into the world of the music box at one of the downbeats for the music box. But this kind of just raises other questions. For one, how did they write and record this? If anyone from Abyssal is watching, I'd love to talk. My best guess is that they looped the music box thing, turned it off while they were recording the riffs at different tempos, and then when they'd done enough riffs, they found a spot to aim for getting back at the same tempo, then wrote some more riffs at the new tempo until the point where the music box pattern started again, and then they cut off that guitar riff so that it could sync up with the music box stuff. But no matter how you slice it, there's some really outside-the-box creative musical thinking and playing happening here, because coordinating all these completely unrelated tempos over such long stretches of time isn't something that I've ever heard of a musician being able to do. It sounds like the sort of two-track mind thing that you hear about in pop psychology articles. And then there's another question. How do they decide to do this? There are some precedents to this sort of thing. There are bits and pieces from Mozart's John Giovanni and Aaron Copland's El Salon Mexico and a bunch of Charles Ives's music that are meant to give the sense of hearing two bands playing unrelated stuff at the same time, though normally there's some smoothing to make stuff easier to play, i.e. keeping different sources at the same tempo at least. So you can have one conductor and make sure they all come back in together when they're meant to. I don't think I've ever heard anything quite like this, though, where the two layers are also completely separate in tempo. And for that matter, one where one of the layers is so quiet you're not sure if you're hallucinating, but then they also still come back together at the end. As with all good music mysteries, this one seems to get more complicated the more I look into it and think about it. But really, I should have expected that staring into the abyss would be unsettling. Here's this whole maddening section. There are some more technical details that I hope to eventually get into, but for this video, I hope I've made it clear how bizarre this section is from a music theory standpoint and how effective these choices are aesthetically. It makes everything feel arcane, esoteric, impenetrable, and like unsimplifiable in a way that is very much in line with what I understand as the driving aesthetic forces behind the band and the album. Well, okay then. Thanks for watching and see ya.